Hey guys, Pedro here to tell you about the debut record from Flat Black, Dark Side of the Brain, on July 19th on Fearless Records. The album has 14 tracks, 51 minutes in length, and they are an American hard rock band. When I look at the design of this record, I have to wonder if this was a case of having too many quality songs and not really wanting to keep any of them out of this album, just throwing them all in there, thinking that quantity equals quality. I don't see this record from that standpoint. I mean, there might be some truth to what I just said, but I think this album could have used a little bit more editing. And what I mean by that is, you don't need 14 songs on this record. You don't need this album to be 51 minutes in length. You have to consider that this is a debut album. You're introducing it to a whole new audience. The style of sound, the style of the band, pushing 51 minutes on a record is a little bit too much and could become cumbersome for the listener. You want to make the record a little bit more compact, a little bit more to the point, with a few ebbs and flows to make the experience as dynamic as possible and making the album as engaging as possible as well. When you overextend yourself, you start to dilute your product. The album starts to feel a little bit repetitive, like we've gone through this before. And that's exactly what you don't want to create, specifically on a debut album. So I think there's a lot of quality in the way the record is constructed, but it doesn't take away from how long the album is. As far as the sound is concerned, I was surprised. The album is a lot heavier than I was expecting coming in. It is still a hard rock album at its core, but there's a lot of metal elements, and there's a lot of heaviness on this album that really pushes that hard rock almost towards the metal sphere. And that to me added great character, great texture, great power, and great drive to the way this album sounds. It's a great sounding album all around. It's an album that is very rich in what it offers and extremely guitar centric. If you're a fan of guitar playing, of great riffs, great diversity across the guitars, using different elements like acoustic guitars for example, in order to create more substance, more volume, but also different textures on a song by song basis, this record is definitely for you. Because it has that focus, it allows the rock and roll of the band to come through in the guitar sound. And that was the first thing that I noticed about this record, was that quality of execution, great guitar presence, great impact, being the one force that unifies this record regardless of the differences and the diversities that you're going to find on a track by track basis. This album is a guitar album and is a guitar album that showcases great execution from start to finish, from the leads to the melodies to the solos. Like I said, diversity, bringing in acoustic guitars, all of that added great quality, great value to the way this record sounds and the way this record is presented. The drums on this album offered a little bit of strength in terms of what the overall volume is going to be all about. I enjoy that some of the cymbals came across almost separated from the rest of the drum sound in an attempt, at least from my standpoint, an attempt to create some depth to the drum sound. It didn't create that depth because I didn't feel like the two were connected. Sometimes you felt like one sound was a little bit up front while the rest of the sound of the drums was a little bit further back. I like the idea, but I don't think the execution really worked well, because you still see the space in between the two. You see that there is a disconnect between the two, and just having them separate or coming across in a separate way sound-wise does not necessarily give it length or give it depth. So that to me is one of the elements that perhaps is a little bit soft on this record, is that extension, that trying of extended the drum sound, which in my opinion this record, for the way the guitars are powerful, the way the guitars are in the forefront, the heaviness that the guitars have, like I said, this is a much heavier album than I was expecting. I don't think you need the drums to do that. You just need the drums to be a little bit more compact, a little bit more dense, and enhancing what the guitars are doing and being there as the backbone of everything else sound-wise. Now, vocally, I enjoy this record. There's a lot of great songs on this album where the vocals really get an opportunity to shine and showcase their quality, their warmth, their richness. I also liked some of the layers that they used on some of the tracks in order to give it not just more volume but more depth to the way the vocals are coming across. It helps a lot in the choruses. It makes the choruses hookier, catchier. I just felt that there were a few songs on this album, very few, but there's a few songs on this album where the vocals feel slightly disconnected from the sound. The vocal performance is not bad, it just doesn't feel connected with the style or vibe that you're getting out of the song. So understanding a little bit better the strengths and the weaknesses of who you have fronting the band, and then tailor-made specific songs more towards the strengths, I think would have served this record. And I think this is where some of that editing that I mentioned before could have came in order to remove some of these tracks out, make the album overall more compact, more focused, and allow the vocals on this record to be a little bit more balanced when it comes to the performance and the quality from first to last. But all around, for a debut record, this album checks a lot of boxes. It's definitely a sound that I like. It's definitely a record that I enjoyed listening to, and it's an album that, because of its guitar-centricness, it spoke to me. I like this style of record, I like this style of sound, and adding a little bit more heaviness on the guitars definitely was one of those surprises that I was really happy to see this album put forward. As far as favorite songs are concerned, I will start off with It's Okay to Be Angry. This is the opening song, and I think it's a song that represents the vibe of the album really well. It may not necessarily represent the sound of the album, from start to finish, but it definitely represents the vibe that this album puts forward. It has those heavier guitars, and the drums together with the guitars really pack a nice punch. It's a song that's also very groovy, which is something you're going to find throughout this record. This is an album that had that surprise of the heavier guitar sound, but it also had the surprise of being quite groovy at the same time. And this song represents those two elements very well, two elements that are going to be somewhat common denominators throughout the entire album. Now, the vocals on this track are very dynamic. I really enjoy them. Great experience, great delivery, matching once again the vibe of the song. I think tracks where you can, when you can get the lyrics to connect with the sound experience, to connect with the vocal performance, to connect with the guitar in terms of what they bring, in terms of the texture that they offer, all the different vibes are pulling together towards one single piece. And this is one of those tracks where you feel like all the stars are aligning, everybody's pulling together to create a song that has intensity, energy, groove, movement, really well-rounded. It's a super well-rounded track that has a great chorus that unifies the song and brings it all the way up, and then it also has a great guitar solo just to be the cherry on top of this cake. The next one I have for you is Home. Now, the reason I really enjoyed this song is because it's a more melancholic, softer track. I wouldn't call it a ballad. I don't think it is a ballad. It doesn't feel like a ballad, but it definitely has a little bit of a softer tone to it. The acoustic guitars add to that softness. They strip down the song, but they offer a different style and a different texture to it. It's a track that has a little bit more volume. It's more stripped down with the acoustic guitars in the verses, and then it gains a little bit more volume, a little bit more presence in the chorus. That allows the chorus to be more impactful, that allows the chorus to stand out and be that climax that you need in a song that has that melancholy as the underlying experience. The bass also plays an important role, not just in the vibe of the song, but in really emphasizing that more stripped down effect that the track has with the acoustic sound behind it. Last but definitely not least, Villain. This track has a great melodic undertone to it, and that melodic undertone has a lot of darkness in it. It's a more emotionally driven song, and it has a heavy guitar riff that adds to that overall darkness of the track. The drums sound really good on this song, and they match really well with the heavier side of the guitar sound as well. It has a little bit more of a methodic verses, and then a more explosive chorus. Is very warm when it comes to the vocal delivery, because the lyrical content, the vibe of the song, the way the vocals are being delivered, everything is in unison. Everything really feeds off of one another, and they enhance one another. It's a well-rounded, well-connected song from what it sounds like to what it feels like, and I think that's always a key important aspect to any track. It has to make you feel something, and this song definitely does that. At least it does it for me. This is it, Flat Black, Dark Side of the Brain, out July 19th on Fearless Records. Let me know your thoughts on the band, on the singles. Hit me up in the comment section. I'll see you all at the next one. Take care, guys.